mean, what do you think we're doing out here in the middle of the desert? It's all this money. This is the end result of all the bright lights and all the broads and all the booze. It's all been arranged just for us to get your money. We're the only winners. The players don't stand a chance.
But it should have been perfect. I mean, he had me, Nicky Santoro.
In 1995, Martin Scorsese gave us Casino, a 3-hour odyssey through greed, power, betrayal, and violence in the neon-lit deserts of Las Vegas. Starring Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Sharon Stone, the film is remembered for its brutal honesty about the mob's grip on Sin City. But behind the blithering casinos and bloody betrayals lies a treasure trove of strange, eerie, and downright bizarre facts. Here are 20 strange and bizarre secrets about Casino that will make you see this Vegas nightmare in a whole new light. Number 1. The real Ace Rothstein survived a car bomb. The character Sam Ace Rothstein, played by Robert De Niro, was based on real-life mob associate Frank Rosenthal. In the film, Ace narrowly survives a car bombing in the desert. That was not fiction. Rosenthal's Cadillac exploded outside a Las Vegas restaurant in 1982. The eerie part? He lived because a metal plate beneath his seat shielded him from the blast. It was pure luck, or fate. He walked away, dazed, like a man who had cheated death itself.
When you love someone, you've got to trust them. There's no other way. For a while, I believed that's the kind of love I had.
Number 2. The mob's influence was still felt. To capture the atmosphere of 1970s Las Vegas, Martin Scorsese hired real casino employees as extras: dealers, pit bosses, waitresses, and even security guards. But authenticity came with a cost. Some of these people still had connections to the mob, and a few were quietly being watched by the FBI. The cast was warned not to get too curious about who they were really standing next to. Here is the strange part. During breaks, De Niro and Pesci would sit at tables with men who looked like background actors, but who may have once been the very people their characters were based on. The actors were told not to ask too many questions, not to probe too deeply, because some of the men were still considered dangerous. It was as if the movie had opened a doorway where real gangsters and fictional gangsters coexisted in the same casino floor. The bizarre detail is that a few extras reportedly gave unprompted advice on how a real mobster might handle certain situations, coaching Pesci on mannerisms and language. These were not lines in the script, but lived experience bleeding into the movie. Scorsese let it happen because it made the performances feel sharper, more authentic. The eerie truth is that Casino was not just about the mob, it was surrounded by it. The actors were playing gangsters while real mob associates stood only a few feet away, watching. The line between fiction and reality blurred so completely that it felt less like a film set and more like a living extension of Las Vegas underworld history. Number 3. Sharon Stone suffered strange nightmares. Playing Ginger was emotionally draining. Sharon Stone later confessed that the role gave her recurring nightmares of drowning in jewelry or being strangled by fur coats. She would wake up gasping for air. The eeriness of Ginger's spiraling life seemed to bleed into Stone's subconscious, as though she had carried the character's curse home with her each night. Number 4. The F-bomb record was legendary. Martin Scorsese's Casino is remembered for its violence, its sprawling crime saga, and its unrelenting use of profanity. The word is spoken 422 times, which averages out to more than 2 per minute, making it the record holder at the time. Characters spit it out casually, angrily, even humorously, until the word itself begins to lose its meaning. Here is the strange part. Instead of shocking audiences, the repetition created a numbing effect. Viewers described the profanity as almost hypnotic, like a rhythm pulsing through the movie. It stopped sounding like language and became more like a soundtrack, of vulgar music underscoring the chaos of greed and betrayal. The bizarre truth is that the constant swearing fit the characters so well that it almost disappeared into the background. Critics noted that it mirrored real mob talk, where the word filled every sentence like a nervous tick. Some linguists even studied the film, pointing out that the profanity functioned less as an insult and more as punctuation, a way of shaping the beat of each conversation. The eerie legacy is that Casino's profanity record made the film feel dangerous in its own right, as if the language itself were part of the violence. Watching it now, you realize the barrage of words is not just there for shock value. It was Scorsese's way of showing how corruption erodes not only morals and bodies, but even the way people speak. Number 5. Pesci and De Niro had a secret language. By the time they filmed Casino, Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci had worked together so many times that their chemistry felt almost telepathic. Scorsese said that they barely needed direction. They could improvise entire scenes with little more than a glance, slipping in and out of dialogue that was not even in the script. During one particularly tense exchange, Scorsese admitted he had no idea what they were saying on set because they mumbled so quickly and overlapped their lines. But when he played it back, the result crackled with energy. Here is the strange part. Their conversations often sounded like a private dialect, half words and unfinished sentences, that only they seemed to understand. Crew members joked that it was less like acting and more like eavesdropping on two real mobsters talking in code. The odd detail is that Scorsese sometimes let the cameras roll without cutting, just to capture the raw unpredictability of their rhythm, because it felt too authentic to interrupt. The eerie truth is that this secret language gave their scenes a dangerous edge. You never quite know what is being said, but you feel the threat underneath every muttered word. It was as if Pesci and De Niro were channeling not just characters, but the ghosts of real gangsters, speaking in a language meant only for themselves. Number 6. The Tangiers Casino never existed. In the film, Ace runs the Tangiers Casino, but in real life, there was no Tangiers in Las Vegas. The set was a recreation of the Stardust Hotel and Casino, where Frank Rosenthal actually worked. The Stardust was so haunted by mob control that the FBI later called it a playground for organized crime. By renaming it, Scorsese avoided lawsuits. Yet to this day, fans who visit Vegas often ask locals, "Where's the Tangiers?" as though it really existed. Number 7. Sharon Stone's wardrobe was worth $500,000. Ginger, Sharon Stone's tragic trophy wife, dazzled with fur coats, sequined dresses, and dripping jewels. But those were not cheap costumes. Stone's wardrobe cost nearly $500,000, with many pieces borrowed from luxury designers. Oddly, Stone often refused to take the outfits off between takes, staying in character even while eating lunch. Crew members swore it was like dining with an actual Vegas socialite who had wandered off the strip. Number 8. Pesci's pen scene was real. One of the most unforgettable moments in Casino comes when Joe Pesci's Nicky stabs a man in the neck with a pen. The scene is so sudden and brutal that audiences often gasp when they see it. But here's the eerie part. That moment was not an invention of the screenplay. It was ripped straight out of real life. The character of Nicky was based on mob enforcer Anthony Spilotro, who ruled Las Vegas with terrifying violence during the 1970s and 80s. In one infamous incident, Spilotro actually attacked a man with a pen during an argument at a Vegas restaurant. He jammed it into the man's throat without hesitation, turning an everyday object into a weapon. The victim survived, but the story spread quickly through the city, becoming a whispered example of just how unpredictable and dangerous Spilotro could be. The bizarre part is how faithfully Scorsese chose to preserve the event. The blocking, the sudden explosion of violence, even the casual way Nicky returns to his meal afterward mirrors how witnesses describe the real attack. It is not stylized or exaggerated. It is exactly as strange and unsettling as it happened. The eerie truth is that when you watch that scene, you are not just seeing a piece of cinema. You are watching a violent ghost of Las Vegas history reenacted on screen, a reminder that the line between film and reality is sometimes only as thin as a pen. Number 9. De Niro changed costumes more than 70 times. Sam Rothstein is always dressed to perfection. In fact, De Niro wore more than 70 different costumes in Casino, the most for any actor in a film. The constant wardrobe changes gave Ace a surreal quality, as if his outer shell was always more important than his inner life. His suits became armor, shielding him from the chaos, even as his world collapsed. Number 10. The real Ginger died tragically. The glamorous yet doomed character of Ginger in Casino was based on Jerry McGee, the wife of mob associate Frank Rosenthal. In real life, Jerry's story ended as tragically as it did on screen. In November 1982, she was found heavily drugged in the lobby of the Beverly Sunset Hotel in Los Angeles, bruised and disoriented. 3 days later, she died from an accidental overdose of cocaine, Valium, and whiskey at just 46 years old. Here is the strange part. Jerry had long ties to the Vegas underworld, and some believe she knew too much about mob operations. Rumors spread that her overdose might not have been an accident at all, but a silencing. Others believed it was the slow collapse of a woman caught in a world built on money, addiction, and betrayal. The bizarre truth is that the film mirrors her fate so closely that it feels almost prophetic. Sharon Stone's Ginger spirals into drugs and paranoia before meeting her own lonely end, and audiences often forget that the fiction was drawn from reality. When you watch the movie now, Ginger's desperation feels even heavier, because you know her real-life counterpart was headed toward the same darkness. What makes it eerie is the setting of her final days. Alone, vulnerable, and surrounded by shadows of the Vegas world she once dazzled, her death remains shrouded in suspicion. It was as if the city that made her sparkle finally consumed her, leaving behind only whispers and unanswered questions. Number 11. Scorsese filmed in an active casino. Many of the scenes were filmed inside the Riviera Casino in Las Vegas, which was open to real gamblers at night. The cast and crew would work while actual slot machines clanged and customers smoked at tables only a few feet away. Sharon Stone recalled the unsettling mix of fiction and reality, where actors in mob costumes walked among real tourists who thought they had stumbled into another world. Number 12. The vice scene was too real. One of the most disturbing scenes shows a man's head crushed in a vice. It was so realistic that crew members had to leave the set. Joe Pesci later admitted that the prosthetics and sound effects were so convincing that even he felt sick shooting it. What made it stranger is that Anthony Spilotro, the real-life mobster, was known for exactly that method of torture. Number 13. Joe Pesci's character was based on a real killer. Nicky Santoro, Pesci's terrifying enforcer, was based on mobster Anthony Spilotro. Known in Chicago as the Ant, Spilotro had a reputation for brutality. His methods included bizarre punishments, such as stabbing victims with pens or using vice grips. Scorsese toned down some of the real horrors because they were simply too disturbing for audiences. When art softens reality, you know the truth was even stranger. To capture the atmosphere of 1970s Las Vegas, Martin Scorsese hired real casino employees as extras, dealers, pit bosses, waitresses, and even security guards. But authenticity came with a cost. Some of these people still had connections to the mob, and a few were quietly being watched by the FBI. The cast was warned not to get too curious about who they were really standing next to. Number 14. Sharon Stone collapsed on set. The emotional toll on Stone became so heavy that she fainted during one scene. She was taken to the hospital, but insisted on returning the next day. Her commitment impressed Scorsese, who said her breakdowns on and off camera only deepened the eeriness of Ginger's downward spiral. Number 15. The Cornfield Murder was based on truth. One of the most haunting moments in Casino is the Cornfield murder of Nicky and his brother, a sequence that leaves audiences shaken long after the credits roll. What makes it even more disturbing is that it was almost a direct reenactment of real history. Anthony Spilotro, the mob enforcer who inspired Pesci's character, and his brother Michael met their end in nearly the same way. Here is the strange part. In 1986, the Spilotro brothers were lured into a suburban house in Illinois under the promise of a meeting. Instead, they were ambushed, beaten with fists and baseball bats, and then driven to a cornfield in Indiana. According to reports, they were buried while still clinging to life, their bodies later found in shallow graves. The brutality of their deaths horrified the public and confirmed just how far the mob's reach extended beyond Las Vegas. The bizarre detail is that the murders were carried out by men Spilotro once considered allies. In the mob's twisted code, the order was not handed to strangers but to people he trusted, men who could get close enough without raising suspicion. That betrayal made the killings all the more unsettling. The eerie truth is that Scorsese recreated the scene with such precision that it feels less like dramatization and more like a grim record of history. When Pesci and his on-screen brother are dragged into the dirt, you are watching not just a movie but a mirror of a crime so vicious it blurred the line between fiction and fact. It is as if the real ghosts of the Spilotro brothers still linger in that cornfield, their story retold through cinema so the world would never forget. Number 16. The sound of slot machines was altered. Scorsese instructed sound designers to amplify the eerie clicks and clatters of slot machines so that they became hypnotic, almost menacing. The strange symphony of coins, bells, and dings created an atmosphere where greed itself felt alive, whispering to gamblers like a siren song. Number 17. The real Frank Rosenthal hated the film. Frank Rosenthal, the man who inspired Ace, despised Casino. He claimed De Niro made him look cold and dull. He also said Sharon Stone's portrayal of Ginger was a total insult to his wife. What is odd is that Rosenthal secretly admitted to friends that the film's events were mostly accurate. Perhaps the eeriest truth of all is that he could not bear to see his life reflected so honestly on screen. Number 18. The film nearly earned an NC-17 rating. The MPAA initially threatened Casino with an NC-17 rating because of its graphic violence. Scorsese fought to keep the brutality intact, arguing it was essential to the story. He trimmed only a few frames. The eerie result is that audiences still flinch at the vice scene, the baseball bats, and the car bombing. Scorsese knew that sometimes what is most disturbing is not what you see, but what you imagine. Number 19. De Niro obsessed over details. Robert De Niro, famous for his method approach, interviewed casino managers, studied betting books, and even learned how to pour vodka so it covered exactly 7 ice cubes, as Ace does in the film. The level of detail bordered on obsessive. Scorsese said it was as though De Niro was possessed by Ace, a man whose life was defined by control in a world spinning out of control. Number 20. Sharon Stone won a Golden Globe but lost herself. Sharon Stone's performance as Ginger in Casino was dazzling, raw, and unforgettable. It earned her a Golden Globe and an Academy Award nomination, cementing her as one of the most powerful actresses of the decade. But the success came at a cost. Stone later admitted that playing Ginger nearly broke her. She described the experience as like living in someone else's nightmare, a role that dragged her into a world of addiction, paranoia, and self-destruction that felt disturbingly real. Here is the strange part. To embody Ginger's unraveling, Stone immersed herself so deeply that she began carrying the character's chaos off-set. Crew members said she often stayed in Ginger's state of agitation even when the camera stopped rolling, and Stone confessed that the darkness of the character clung to her in ways she could not shake. The bizarre truth is that while audiences saw the glamorous side of Ginger, the glittering dresses, the jewels, the smoky confidence, Stone herself felt the rot underneath. She said the role drained her spirit and blurred the line between acting and living. It was one of the strangest acting experiences of her career, a part that gave her accolades but also haunted her long after filming ended. The eerie legacy is that every time viewers watch Ginger's downfall, they are not only witnessing a fictional tragedy, but glimpsing the toll it took on the actress herself. It is as if Sharon Stone and Ginger merged for a brief moment in time, and both were left scarred by it. Bonus bizarre facts for the loyal fans. Bonus 1. Scorsese originally considered Madonna for the role of Ginger, but feared her star power would overshadow the story. Bonus 2. A real FBI agent who investigated the mob advised Scorsese during filming. He later said watching the movie felt like reliving the strangest days of his career. Bonus 3. Some gamblers who wandered into the Riviera during filming thought they were witnessing real mob meetings, not a movie shoot. Bonus 4. Sharon Stone's mother visited the set and was so disturbed by her daughter's scenes that she left crying. Bonus 5. In an eerie twist, the Riviera Casino, where Casino was filmed, was demolished in 2016. The building that once housed the movie's world is now nothing but dust in the desert. Casino is not just a movie about Las Vegas. It is a movie about obsession, betrayal, and the strange cost of power. For every glittering chip on the table, there was a shadow waiting in the desert. For every laugh at the slot machines, there was a scream echoing from the cornfield. And sometimes, the strangest fact of all is that reality was darker than fiction. If you loved diving into the bizarre truths behind Casino, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell us what film you want to explore next. Because in Hollywood, the strangest stories are the ones you are not supposed to know. This is Strange Flick Facts, where we uncover the bizarre truths behind your favorite films.